Hello there. My name is Tony Mills of Energetic Wisdom. Today I'm going to talk about depression. I said cheerful, which is a bit of a contradiction, but many people don't really understand about depression and how people feel when they are depressed. The point is, it's on such an increase these days, mainly because it's to do with communication in a big way, really, because communication as regards technology is on such an increase. But what it's done, it's separated people like friends and family, so that they're not working together, not feeling things. They're actually working through technology. So that's a big factor in our lives now. As you know, everyone's on a mobile phone, everyone's a computer, and it separates. Its separation has a lot to do with this, right? Now, it's also is a communication in another way is, I mean, I'm a man, okay? Yeah, man. The point is, men don't communicate very well. And so where's the highest suicide rate? In men. And it's very high in men because there's a fear of expression and a sign of weakness. That is the problem with men, I'm afraid. But that's on the increase. Women could communicate more. There's very often some kind of trauma originally in childhood that's been suppressed and not expressed in any way. And it can be unresolved childhood trauma, really. And very often it can be towards the opposite sex parent. That's very common, actually, not always. So this is the background. Now, there's many different forms of depression, I find. One aspect is relating to the thyroid. And the thyroid gland, which sits here, can make you feel heavy and depressed. Underactive thyroid is a feeling of heaviness and depression. This is to do with the triple warmer meridian, which has a lot to do with fight or flight. And it affects the adrenals. The triple warmer is related to the adrenals as well. So let's go to fight, flight, or freeze. You see, fight is angry, flight is fear, freeze, don't move. Okay, don't move is the worst of all. No movement, stay as I am, you know, and then that heaviness can set in. All because of trauma. All three of those can be because of some kind of trauma. And the thing is, there's also a feeling of being stifled, hopelessly stifled. You can have that feeling because there's been discouragement at the start. I mean, the thyroid says, when is it my turn? That's what it's saying. So in the end, there's a kind of giving up, the feeling of feeling that hopelessness and helplessness. Unfortunately, what do is we comfort ourselves. And we comfort ourselves very often with inappropriate comforters. So the food is usually heavy food, just sit and watch telly, eat all this junk, or alcohol. And alcohol is another area that's on the increase. And alcohol is, you'll see on Radio 2, you know, they said, well, what are you drinking today? Prosecco, red wine. So I'm cooking this with so-and-so wine. So all the time it's become so much, I know it's been part of society for a long time, but alcohol is another big factor here because it's a drug, okay? So all these things comfort us, that's the point. And you don't just step out of that comfort. By just changing the food, just changing the food to nice raw food and to cutting out things like alcohol and any other drugs, that alone can make a big difference. It all goes back to your value. Now, there is another aspect of depression, and that is around the liver. And the liver is very often an anger you don't feel you have a right to have, right? So it suppresses that anger. And there's even to the extent, and this is perhaps the difference between the thyroid depression and the liver depression, there's disowning the right to live, okay? There's not having that will to live can come around with the liver. It's not so much with the thyroid side, it's just feeling heavy and depressed. And because there's inside the liver situation, there's that extreme anger, but you're a really nice person. That's not going to be expressed. So the anger goes inwards, you see. And there's also around the liver, you're unable to push away pain or struggle against opposition. That is a problem. And also there can be a factor of putting other people first. So we've got, with the liver, there's a kind of big contradiction of being, oh yeah, be nice on the outside, but really the complete opposite going on the inside. But a fear of expressing that. That is the point. Your passion can be kind of also put down. There's no passion there. There's lack of interest in life as well. And very often too, there may be some initial discouragement, perhaps from parents, or some other authority figure. And what we do is, when they're not around, we continue to discourage ourselves. That we keep that program going of self-discouragement. Problems that we've had from our childhood, we tend to keep going. And when anything happens around parents or anniversaries, that reminds us, and it just drags us all back again. So the depression is literally what it says. You're feeling with the thyroid is feeling heavy, and so the body then expresses it. So it expresses weight. Now, we know there's a chemical reaction with these things, okay, but it has an expression of weight. Hyperactive, very often, sometimes they get mixed up, but hyperactive, usually you lose weight because you've had to prove yourself. And so you push yourself, and push yourself. And very often it's the other way. You're kind of more drawn and slimmer and active, to prove yourself. But sometimes that kind of depression can seep in to the hyperactive as well. That is the point. So we've got the thyroid and the liver. I think the liver is the one is more critical, because it's very important to address the liver one, and to address it with the right food makes such a difference to the liver, because the liver has to process everything that goes through the body. It's a big processing factory, okay? Well, if you think of it emotionally, the liver has to process all the emotions that go through the body as well, okay? So anything really heavy, it's a job it's doing its best for us, but when we overload it, it gets weighed down. And it's the same with the wrong food. Heavy food through the liver, too much oils, red meat and all that, it's going to be blocked, okay? And it's the one that's trying to help us. That is the point. So that by looking after ourselves physically, as well as emotionally, it makes a difference. Now, I work emotionally with people, and I get really good results with the emotions, and especially with things like depression. And sometimes you will go through, perhaps we've all been through that dark night of our soul, where we get that heavy, it's like a period where you go to right to rock bottom. And I've been there. I was kind of left with a massive debt, and I was in despair. That's a good one, I think, the word despair, because I can relate to despair. And it takes you right to the bottom. Usually that is temporary. And another thing is to have something an intention, something to aim for, even though it seems impossible. You think, no way. Have something to aim for, and it'll start drawing you towards that light, because we tend to look back into what's wrong, what's gone wrong. That is the point. There is another area that, strangely enough, it's the T12, which is the 12 thoracic vertebrae, right at the bottom of your ribs and the spine there. And that has got another one with the will to live, and it affects the small intestine, and it can affect the lymphatic system. But again, it's a lack of nourishing yourself, that one. You can't digest life, so the body will reflect in that. It says, right, and to show you how you don't digest life. And the same with the thyroid and the liver. I'm talking about these three areas that can make a big difference to someone's emotional health as regards depression. Okay. The thyroid, of course, is on the throat chakra. This is the area of expression. If you can't express it, it's going to drag down. If you're not given a voice by others when you were very young, you're going to keep it in, because there's a fear then of expression, and that's your release. This is like a pressure cooker. This is your release valve. Okay, so otherwise you keep it in and you blow your head off like a pressure cooker. So we've got to start looking at these areas, and you make a big difference. Just those areas alone can make a really big difference to our lives, and this is very often what I work with. Okay, so if there's any questions, by the way, you can put them in the column next, and I can come back to you later about them. But yeah, anything about that, and if there's anything you want to bring up specially, don't be afraid to contact me. So this is energetic wisdom.co.uk, and you can contact me at any time. And my website is energetic wisdom. Energetic wisdom. Okay, if you just do energetic-wisdom. I always get that wrong. I don't know. It's my own site. It's crazy, really. So anyway, that's it. And if anything you want to bring up on that, please come back to me. And if anything you want to talk about, I'm quite happy to do that. Thank you for listening to me. All the best to everyone. Bye.